Fans don't use the word champions lightly. It's a title earned, not given. A title that comes from years of loyalty, impact, and consistency. And in the world of celebrity duos, where partnerships fade as quickly as they appear, one pair has stayed undefeated in the hearts of millions. Freen and Becky. From the moment they stepped into the spotlight together, something about them felt different. It wasn't just the chemistry. It wasn't just the performances. It was the way they moved as a team, balanced, natural, unforced, like two people who understood each other without needing to speak. Fans watched them grow from co-stars into icons, not because of a single project, but because of every moment that came after, the quiet backstage support, the lingering glances, the synchronized energy during interviews, the way they always seemed to choose each other even when they didn't have to. And this year, fans finally said what they'd been feeling all along. Freen and Becky are the forever champions of their generation. It started as a simple comment online. One fan posted a short clip of them, Freen gently fixing Becky's mic, Becky leaning closer to whisper something only Freen could hear. It was a small gesture, but something about it hit the fandom hard. Within minutes, the phrase "forever champions" was trending. Clips poured in. Old interviews resurfaced. Fans began sharing memories, moments where Freen shielded Becky from crowds, where Becky defended Freen from unnecessary criticism, where the two of them held onto each other like the world behind the cameras didn't exist. One moment in particular kept returning to the spotlight. A fan capture clip from an event months ago. Becky was overwhelmed by the noise and chaos around her. Freen didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, placed a steady hand on Becky's back, and whispered something that instantly softened her expression. Becky's shoulders relaxed. She nodded. And in that simple, quiet moment, fans saw everything they needed to see. Mutual trust. Deep care. A bond built on something real. That clip went viral again today. And with it came thousands of comments. This is why they're the champions. They protect each other like no one else. Northwest One comes close to their connection. They're forever. Period. But it wasn't just emotional moments that earned them this title. It was the way they fought, together, through the hardest parts of their careers. When the criticism came. When rumors tried to divide them. When expectations grew heavy and overwhelming. They never cracked. They never drifted. They never let the pressure break what they built. Instead, they became stronger. People in the industry noticed it too. Coordinators, stylists, co-stars, they all said the same thing. Freen and Becky work like one unit. They understand each other on a level most pairs never reach. And fans took that to heart. Because in a world where fame is temporary and partnerships fade, Freen and Becky remain the opposite. Consistent, unwavering, grounded. They were the duo who didn't let success change their dynamic. They were the pair who supported each other even off camera, even in silence, even when no one was watching. That's why fans declared them the champions. Not because they won awards, not because of popularity, but because they remained authentically themselves, together. But what fans didn't know was that behind the scenes, something had happened recently. Something small but powerful. Something that made their bond even stronger and proved to everyone, including themselves, that being forever champions wasn't just a title. It was the truth. Freen stood backstage, waiting for her turn to step out for their award presentation segment. The noise of the crowd was thick, rolling like waves from the auditorium, but her attention wasn't on the stage. It was on Becky, who was standing just a few steps away, silently rehearsing her lines under her breath. The soft glow of the backstage lights hit Becky's face in a way that made her look calm, but Freen knew better. She had memorized Becky's tells by now. The way she tapped her fingers against her script meant she was anxious. The way she shifted from her left foot to her right meant she was overthinking. And the way she kept glancing toward the exit meant she needed reassurance. Freen walked toward her, slow and steady. Becky didn't even hear her coming, too lost in her own thoughts. When Freen finally spoke, her voice was gentle. "You're doing that thing again," she said softly. Becky blinked and looked up. "What thing?" Freen smiled. "The nervous tapping. You do it when you're worried you won't get something right." Becky exhaled, almost embarrassed. "I didn't even notice." Freen reached out, resting her hand lightly on Becky's arm. grounding her instantly. You don't have to worry. You always get it right. And even if you don't, I'm right next to you. Becky nodded, but it wasn't the kind of nod that meant she believed everything. It was the kind that meant she wanted to believe it. Freen knew exactly what to do next. She leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. You're not alone. Not now. Not ever. Okay. And that was it. That simple reassurance was enough to soften Becky's shoulders, enough to make her breathe again. It was moments like this that fans never saw, but the people backstage saw them all the time. Every time Freen reassured Becky, every time Becky instinctively reached for Freen's hand, every time they stood close even when there was plenty of space around them. It wasn't just chemistry. It wasn't performance. It was something real, something deep-rooted, something that made even the staff whisper amongst themselves, these two are different. When they stepped onto the stage moments later, the entire arena erupted into cheers. It was always this way with Freen and Becky. They didn't need to try. Their presence together was enough. Fans raised their banners, glowing sticks, signs that read "Forever Our Champions, Freen Becky Nation, our iconic duo." Becky smiled, the heartfelt kind, and Freen instinctively reached to adjust the mic on Becky's collar, a habit she never seemed aware of until fans pointed it out time and time again. The camera zoomed in, catching the small gesture, and everyone watching at home felt that spark that had kept the fandom alive for years. They presented the award, exchanged their practice lines, but it was what happened afterward that would become the turning point in their story. When they walked off stage, the applause still echoing behind them, Becky suddenly stopped. Freen nearly bumped into her but paused, eyes searching Becky's face. Becky wasn't panicking. She wasn't overwhelmed. Her expression was something else, something raw. She looked at Freen with a seriousness she normally kept hidden. "Can I ask you something?" Becky said quietly. Freen nodded. "Always." Becky swallowed, glancing behind them to make sure Northwest staff were too close, then back at Freen. "Why do you always do that?" Freen blinked. "Do what?" Becky hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Take care of me like that. Notice everything. Fix things before I even realize something's wrong." Freen opened her mouth to respond, but Becky continued. "You do it even when you think no one's watching. Even when you think I don't notice. Why?" Freen wasn't expecting the question. Not here. Not now. Not with the sound of the crowd still humming behind them and the lights warming their skin. She took a slow breath. "Because," she paused. "Because you matter to me." Becky's eyes flickered. "I know, but lots of people matter to you. This feels like more than that." Freen sighed, rubbing the back of her neck the way she did when she was trying to hide emotion. "Bex, I do it because I want to. Not because I have to. Not because someone expects it. I just feel better when you're okay. When you're steady. When I know you're not going through something alone." Becky held her gaze for a long moment, something unreadable in her eyes. "Do you ever get tired?" Freen frowned. "Of what?" "Of carrying me this way." Freen almost laughed. "Bex, you don't understand. You think I'm carrying you, but you've been holding me up this whole time too." Becky shook her head, unsure. But Freen wasn't finished. "You're my balance. The one person I can stand next to and just be myself. The one person I don't have to pretend with. The fans call us champions, but you're the reason I stay strong." Becky's breath caught. Her hands trembled for a moment before she hid them behind her back. "You really mean that?" Freen nodded. Every word. That would have been enough emotional weight for one night. But fate had other plans. After the event ended, their manager approached them with news that took them both by surprise. They had been scheduled for a joint interview, a deep dive, long-form conversation focusing on their partnership, their journey, and everything they'd built together. It wasn't just another media appearance. This was the interview that would be streamed live across multiple platforms, where fans could send questions directly. Freen and Becky exchanged a look. They both knew what that meant. Their dynamic would be scrutinized harder than ever. The world would be dissecting their chemistry, their interactions, their words, their silences. And with the way things had been feeling between them lately, too charged, too honest, too close, the stakes were higher than ever. Before the interview, they were escorted to a small preparation room. The door clicked shut, leaving them alone for the first time since Becky's earlier question. Becky paced. Freen leaned against the table, watching her with quiet concern. Finally, Freen spoke. "You're thinking too much again." Becky exhaled sharply. "I'm thinking because everything feels different lately, and I don't know how to handle that." Freen's heart tightened. "Different how?" Becky turned to her. "You know how." Silence stretched between them, the heavy kind that held confessions neither of them were ready to say out loud. Becky sat down slowly, her voice lower now. "They're going to ask. You know they will. Questions about us, about why we are so close, about why we work the way we do." Freen sat beside her. "Then we'll answer them." Becky shook her head. "But how? What do we say? What if I say something that reveals too much?" Freen's voice softened. "And what if that's okay?" Becky's eyes widened at the suggestion, her breath catching again. "Freen, do you want me to say it? Do you want me to tell the world something I haven't even said to you?" Freen looked down, then back at Becky with a sincerity that made the air feel too warm. "Maybe you don't need to say it. Maybe you already have. Every time you look at me the way you do. Every time you reach for my hand. Every time you trust me with the parts of you no one else sees." Becky felt her chest tighten. She wasn't just hearing Freen's words, she was feeling them. Deeply. She leaned in slightly, her voice trembling. "Then tell me something first. Why does it matter so much to you what I feel?" Freen didn't flinch. She didn't look away. "Because your feelings shape mine more than they should." The room went still. For a moment, neither of them said anything. The truth hung heavy, suspended between them like a fragile secret begging to be touched. They were both wondering the same thing. Were they crossing a line? Or had they already crossed it long ago without realizing?